So then we are back with a more understanding from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, and we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. Then per Yeshayahu the prophet, we find in the 61st chapter, where then it states very plainly the completion of the spring feast, mentioning of the autumn feast, and returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. So let's then evaluate what goes on in the world, and the world then trying to hold on to the old junkies of the 1,000 years of deceit. This means the Babylonian system of then placing people without understanding of manufacturing in power, and not understanding then direct trade. As it was explained before, lots of information came out, and then if you read then the news, you found then the Chinese, they already set in orbit an equipment up there where then a special signal only for the trade system then is already available. This is the first big situation. Second is the Chinese, also the government system is going through a huge reform. So then another situation is you find then the CEO of Citigroup then having a visit with also the leaders of China. So then there is then this upgrading of the system, where then we are very aware of the Citigroup was also involved in a 2008 mortgage bust. Then obviously the mortgage system is in the hand of the Chinese, at least the great part of it. So then the other section was related with the CMC company from China. It's going to Africa. It is a huge company, deals with oil tankers and many types of equipment for infrastructure, then rebuilding or then starting to build. There are other factors related with also the direct trade. Visa also in China is doing the upgrading and then facilitating direct trade. So there is then an entire section of news related specific, very specific with direct trade. So then let's evaluate what goes on in the West. Not much going on in the West. It's the same junk. Either then some sort of a gun control, some sort of a problem, some sort of a scandal, or IRS, and so on and so forth. There's absolutely nothing going on. We find then the military becoming more active in the Mideast, more dangers, more problems in Syria. So there is not much going on in the West, but then you find also not only the United States but Japan involved in the midst of it. In Japan, they had a very weak economy ever since October last year, and they are printing out more money. We are printing out more money. So then there is this push from the West, and Japan and also Australia. Unfortunately, the existing government has made huge mistakes, and then they plain lied. Let's be extremely forward, because they promised then a surplus, and they ended up being nearly 20 times 12 digits below what they should have. So then if you don't say they are liars, you know, what else can we say? So then should obviously evaluate the new government, because then they may reconsider the idea of purchasing 100 aircrafts and then 12 submarines. Because there is a set plan regarding then the government of China and also the government of the Soviet Union. How do we know this with such certainty? Evaluate, for instance, what it means the Babylonian system versus the dragon system. The dragon system is then only a term of precision, direct trade, computerized. This is what you understand of dragon. The devilish time is gone. It's from 1009 to 2009. It was a time of the 1,000 years of deceit, no holy cities. And the first holy city is in the land of Cush, then northern Sudan. We must understand these factors, because the cities are returning, where then the beacon of light of the world then is given once again. and there is no way of the world joining up with their junkies and try to make it work. It won't work. China is far ahead of the game, and then last Sunday they already closed 7 deals of mining, so they are backing up themselves with raw materials. They send then the CMC company from China, the largest in the country, went to Africa. They are backing up even further their raw materials. So then let's understand then how the new system works. Some people, they get extremely confused. Some people, they think, oh, we're going to change then our monetary system with yen. No! It is a set-aside system. We have our system, monetary system, and then the new system of the Chinese is a virtual system where then you use a number or a set of numbers. So it is then a set apart system. Let's evaluate. When the time comes, then the system becomes available. You download in your computer. Imagine then a gigantic eBay having Chinese products. Then you have a giant of a bank, for instance, Bank of China, as your PayPal. It's a link. You get a financial linked system with the system. So then you make your purchases, you do your investment via this system. It is virtual. So then there is no link with our own system. Became then a subsystem. There is no link with it. The only time you make a link with it is when you take your investments from the Chinese system and you transfer into the subsystem, where then you have to make a conversion of yen and then our system. That's the only time there is a link. Otherwise there is no link. So you are then online, you are verifying their products, you find then thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of products. Then there is an icon over there where you can invest. You click the icon and then you find then a list, the huge list of items where you then pick those items or products where you think is going to be projected then the most items then sold. When you do this, then a month later you get a tiny share of it, depending on how much you invest. So then you combine the stock exchange with investment at the same time, you yourself being your own banker and your own CEO. So there is no link with any subsystem. It is virtual. You are dealing with a number. When you have online banking, you are dealing with a number. It's simply a number. In your mind, you have a division of, because it has to be monetary system of US. No, it is virtual. And the equipment in the space is already in orbit only for this purpose. So let's try to understand the way it works. You download in your computer, then you have to have a financial link. Bank of China. Bank of China, Citigroup, HSBC, those are linked up. When the time comes, you then use the Bank of China as this link as PayPal is. You have your credit card or you have then your checking, your banking linked with the system. The reading of the numbers is in yen. So then when you make your transfer from our monetary subsystem into the system, then the transfer is done. The conversion is done. Understandably, from then on, it's only a number. You are going to have then obviously thousands of products where you can invest. And depending on how much you invest, then a month later you get a tiny share of it. It's not very big per item. But you will multiply then by thousands upon thousands upon thousands of items, where do you project where those items then would be sold the most? Some examples: electric wires, or then breakers, circuit breakers. You find then cement. You find then construction materials, construction equipment. Whatsoever is listed over there that is related with obviously infrastructure, then you invest your money. But it is virtual. When you go to work, you do the same as you usually do. But then when you come home, then you log on the system and you do your trade. You do then what you want to do. And then because the Chinese system has then their own products and they have their own market, then when you want to buy, you buy with yen. It's simply a number. You are already dealing with the overseas system. So then when it comes to our country, the only way of taxation is via labeling. So then people have the proper understanding. We are not going to change from our monetary system into yen. We are going to deal in the system with yen. So when you purchase in yen because you are dealing with a set of numbers. Let's hope this sinks in the mind of the people so then we can understand what goes on. It is a virtual system. You are not going to be dealing with the niceties and the bureaucracy of our own. Once you have then your funding, then you make a transfer in whatsoever the amount is. It stays there in the system. It stays there but in their own. It's in yen. It remains there until indefinite. As long as you manage it positively, remains there intact. But not only this, those people who are linked also with the system, you can make transfers. You can pay people under the same system. The only time the system becomes then available as means of trade is when you make a transfer then from the system then to our own subsystem. That's when then the government must make sure that then charge taxes or some sort of a transfer tax or some sort of a policy related with it, and then when they purchase the products. That's the importance of taxation and freighting. But then the government is stupid. They don't understand the potential of these. They don't understand what it means. They don't give a regard. And the equipment and the space is already in orbit. When the time comes the signal. People download and they are in the system. Does not have any link with our subsystem. The only link you generate is when you transfer your earnings from the new system into the subsystem of our country. Then we are subjected to policies of our country, and thus far we have none. And when you make a purchase in their own system. There is no link with our own. So let's understand what goes on in the world, because the West is not going to last for very long. Japan is not going to last for very long. They have their economy badly damaged. We are having such a hard time at the moment having some understanding of our economy. We are spending more than we are earning. We are printing more than we should have. And also Australia got in trouble. So let's make sure, vote for Tony the next election in September. And make sure then, lots of changes should be made. But as far as ordering aircrafts, it's a waste of time. How do we know this? Because the aim of the countries of the West is going against China. And the more we push the Chinese away, the closer they get of making a deal with Northern Kingdom. Soviet Union, as we understand, some 20 days ago, it was revived, a huge tradition of the Soviet Union. So the more the West and the other countries, they push the Chinese away from what they think is a danger, the closer they get from closing a deal with the Soviet Union. Then you find Soviet captains then driving Chinese submarines. Because when you read in Daniel, the 11th chapter, you find the latest position of the Soviet Union higher than the first. What do you understand of it? What is the relationship of the Eastern Kingdom and the Northern Kingdom? It's very strong. Then you find the Northern Kingdom become their managers. This means any kind of a Babylonian system trying to do trade with China, for instance, US or Australia or New Zealand or any other country, goes through the Northern Kingdom. Paperwork-wise, make sure then the deal is closed, make sure the deal is backed up by raw materials, transportation and such, and the paperwork is forwarded. Thus the combination of East and North's military providing then security for those people wanting direct trade. So what is the problem? Why should then, for instance, Australia purchasing 100 aircrafts and 12 submarines? Are they expecting some sort of invasion? The direct trade of the time of the restoration period, this is what it means. Direct trade. The middleman, the troublemaker, then is eliminated. So once again, the system is very friendly use. Simply you download in your computer. It is a special signal from space. Then you simply download in your computer. And you have then the Bank of China as your PayPal, and then the rest of it is a huge eBay. Even eBay, for instance, at the moment is going to have a huge impact in the future because Chinese products, they are not going to be purchased as often as they are during this time. When the system becomes available, Chinese products is in the Chinese system. So then understandably there is no link. It is absolutely 100% virtual, as you would do investment and trade and you do banking online. However, you are dealing with a number, same as you deal with a number when you do your own banking. As far as New Zealand, there was this huge project of this casino convention center. The casino part of it is going to be wasted. When the system becomes available in the future, they are not going to waste their money in gambling. Because gambling is the idea of a Babylonian system of government. They are always gambling with somebody else's money. That's why governments they get in trouble, because they regard the government as a gambling place. And watch where those gambles are at. We are bankrupt. Our government is absolutely bankrupt. Our economy is nearly sunk because they made our government as a big gamble. In the new system, there is no gambling. You have to be smart and project those products that are going to be sold the most. So then why have casino then? Do you think you're going to waste your money in casino? Of course not. You're going to find a product in the system where it's going to be sold the most. The casino place is going to be empty. Maybe a few stupid people over there going over there because they have so much money they don't know what to do with it. But then the more a person studies the system, the more they get involved with, the more they invest. So consider then casinos obsolete. That's the old form of government. That's why governments are in trouble, because they treat the government as a gamble. And the time goes on, the more situations going on, then the Chinese leaders, they are visiting in India, they are visiting in many areas of the world, they are backing up the raw materials. When the time comes, if we don't do our homework, then our subsystem becomes bankrupt, and then the system becomes available. Then becomes a chaos from then on, because if then the freighters of our country, they don't take on the leadership, then our country is sunk. Expect civil war. Because the government is not facing facts. They don't understand the high technological era, and they can't link, for instance, the New York Exchange online. They can't understand this factor. Those people over there screaming around and then a piece of paper going up and down, those people are gamblers. They are gambling with their money. And the new system doesn't have such. You have to project to where most of the products must be sold, and that's where you get your money from. It doesn't have up and down, up and down, up and down. It's always up. Because infrastructure, always searching for products. So let's wait then and verify whether these countries then joining up in this crazy idea of pushing then the Chinese away. The more they do, the closer they get of making a deal with the Soviet Union.